Hey folks, I'm excited to share our latest release for our school and district partners, which is around analyzing growth. Now, one of the biggest requests that we hear often is a desire for schools and districts to be able to analyze student progress over time on their given rubrics. So you may be using the same or a very similar rubric on many assignments over the course of the year. And one of the asks that we've heard is the ability for schools and districts to be able to visualize that progress, to see it over time, to see textured trends and insights across assignments that tell you whether students are making growth, where they're making growth, and where gaps remain. That's what we have for you today. So if you go to your admin console, there's a powerful new feature on the left-hand side where it says Analytics. You can click on the button that says Growth. Here, I'm going to be served with a list of assignments that I've given throughout the year, as well as how many student submissions exist for each of those assignments. Now, one thing you want to be careful of here is you want to make sure you're comparing apples to apples. So you can't compare, assignments that use very different rubrics or just wildly different in terms of the nature. That's going to be very difficult for us to make any meaningful sense of. But most of the time, that's not the case. Often we're using the same or very similar rubrics. And so I'm going to go ahead and grab just 4 assignments here that use the Texas STAR rubric. And I'm going to click to go to the next step. The system validates for me that these are similar or the same rubric. And in this case, it is the same. The only constraints here is you need to have 2 rubrics that have the same number of criteria. Otherwise, we can't compare, for example, 3 criteria to 2. And you also need to make sure that you're comparing the same number of points. So a criterion with 6 points versus 4 points, it's going to be difficult to really make sense of how to compare those two. Most of the time, again, that's not going to be a problem. I'm going to click to the next step. And now we see some of the magic, which is we can actually analyze the progress that's happening over time across the district. And so right now, not only is the system already surfaced up these proficiency trends, it's also giving us textured analysis of the strengths, growth areas, and recommendations around what's happening in student writing specifically, down to the details of textual evidence, the way in which writing conventions are showing up or not showing up, based on what we've been leaving feedback on our rubrics all year. And in addition, we can get these proficiency trends. And so we can see here the proficiency rate for organization and development, for conventions. Looks like these are happy trends. They're moving upward, which is great. And if for some reason we have a different definition of proficient, we can come here and we can reset that. So for example, if for some reason I thought that proficiency on conventions is actually just a 1 out of 2, not a 2 out of 2, then I can shrink that down and the numbers are going to go up because more students have met that bar. In this case, that isn't the correct bar for student work, and so I'm going to leave it at 2. But this shows you that for whatever your rubric, your task, you can sort of analyze proficiency based on your threshold for what that really means. But in addition, you can also see the distribution of how students have performed over time. So if we click on the score distribution, we can see green means good and green is getting bigger over time, which is what we'd like to see. And we can see that the colors that indicate lower proficiency rates, those are shrinking. So that's exactly what we'd want to see as well. We can see the average performance over time. And so we've got charts and graphs to tell us what scores students have actually been obtaining, as well as a comparison showing us the growth from the first to the final. One of the unique things about EnlightenAI is we serve up these writing fluency metrics, which can be very informative and a leading indicator of student proficiency and progress. And so you get that as well. And you can see the number of words written, words spelled correctly. A lot of the writing fluency metrics also seem to be moving in the right direction. And you'll see data like this from time to time also. It's not always going to be aligned. For whatever reason, sometimes on a given assignment, students do better or worse. And so we're seeing that here with the incorrect word sequences. And then, of course, there's a table at the end to compare everything as well. If I were to change some of the metrics here, I can refresh these trends and insights at any time in order to get up to the minute indicators on where students are at and how they're doing. And I'm able to filter by school, by teacher, by grade level. If student demographics are shared, those can be analyzed as well. And so I can really drill deep into what is happening in terms of writing proficiency, writing progress at my school or organization across classrooms in a way that simply has never before been possible. And so we're really excited for you to try this in our initial release, to get your feedback, to see what ideas, innovations, additional requests this spurs. And just grateful for your partnership in helping us to build and grow so that you can track analyze, and ultimately move student writing forward.